I went to the AF Works demo day recently, which is very exciting because it was the first demo day where I saw someone come in carrying a missile under their arm. Oh, they are? One of your companies? Yeah, this was a missile about this big that's designed to intercept drones. But the entrepreneur was like, you know,
showed a demo.
Nice. I'll see. Yes. Okay. I'll pass you the microphone here. Can you pass it behind?
Hi. My name is Hyun-Jin Sung with Samsung Ventures. I have a question for you. Because all of you are doing deep tech investments, we primarily do deep tech investments. One of the benefits that we have is during the diligence, I have the luxury of 400,000 or 500,000 engineers behind me, supporting me to make sure that that specific technology at that specific company is the best technology in the world. We've actually compared it literally with every other one. So when we do an investment, we feel confident that that is the best one. We could be wrong, but at least we have conviction that it is the best one through very, very deep diligence. So for you that are up there, with the exception of Siemens here, how do you guys validate that? Because by speaking to other people, they may tell you that this one AI technology or this one coding technology or this one computer vision technology is really cool and they're really excited, but that's just one data point, right? And so how do you go about doing this? Because there are a lot of other VCs here, I'm sure, don't have an army of people like we do. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Sure. So there's things we don't do. So there's certain investments in the world where all it is it's four guys claiming to have a better AI. Couldn't tell you if they have a better idea, AI, and thanks, and I'm walking away. And there's other investments where at the end of the day, it's not that hard to figure out that they're doing something that's unique and potentially works, and it's more about the business model than it is necessarily about the tech. It's not that the tech's not important, but it's something about the combination of team and business model where there's clearly not a solution. We keep using David Mendel and Humatics, but he was the top robotics professor. His team was immediately superstars. The guy who wrote the book in his area at MIT on another subject. So he had a team of people who were sort of absolutely clearly the best in the world at what they were doing. And then, again, we just went to customers. And we went to, not to just a random customer, would you want something like this, but we went to, it was something in the radar space. We went to Lockheed. And when the Lockheed guys were blown away by what they could do, I was pretty sure it was the best, it's the best that they had. So, there are cases when I can evaluate the quality of the technology, but it's usually through my interactions with the company and then their interactions with their customers. Not necessarily like I looked at it, or even if I hired somebody to look at it. We have a top physicist as one of our partners, this brilliant guy, and he helps us look at things. But in some sense, it doesn't matter. He has a PhD in one thing, and he couldn't possibly know if this is the greatest on all these different aspects, particularly when it's a combination of software, sensors, something else. So it's not that we're actually just sort of putting our foot in the ground and saying this is the best tech. We're putting our foot in the ground about this business model, and this technology is a great solution for this problem with this business model.
Can I add my 2 cents? So, Matt.
Can you get a microphone?
No, it's quick. I probably need a microphone. We don't assume that the best technology is going to win in the market, right? And I think it very seldomly does, actually. Yeah. So it's for us, it's 100% team execution because I've put a lot of hours into trying to find the deal that has the best tech, and then it just never gets off the ground because they can't execute or they don't have the market well enough. So I don't spend much time trying to find it anymore.
Right, yeah, like good tech is definitely one factor that you need to check off, and good IP and things like that, but it's not a guarantee of success. But I think in terms of how we go about doing that when we don't have that army of engineers and researchers from a corporate parent, we rely on a team that's very complementary in skill sets. We're not experts in everything, we're experts in our thing. And we leverage external consultants where we can, right, to get a foothold or get a leg up on areas where we don't have any real knowledge. Also, a great source of diligence is our other portfolio companies who are active in those spaces, right? So they know maybe an adjacent market, that this is something that's working. But customers are also a great source.
Yeah. Well, we work a lot with also other companies in our portfolio because now we have so many, like hundreds of experts, literally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're happy to do it. I'll
Yeah.
send one of my companies
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking
Right,
about
right.
to go see
Like, check
a bunch
this
of the
out.
engineers
Right.
in another one of my companies. Those guys are like, cool. It's like demo day for them, right? They're like, cool, bring that guy in. And they just rip
Exactly,
into it.
exactly.
they're a happy day.
They
tell
consider
me
it a
what they think.
compliment that you want their opinion.
I want their opinion, and I get a great look from a bunch of top engineers.
Absolutely.
So, I was just reminded that we're already significantly over time, so I really thank you for that. So I'm going to see if there's maybe a few last questions, and so actually one of our portfolio companies.
Herb Ryan, I'm with the startup Bitome, and I was in Hacks in the 09 group, which I guess was 2016, so that experience to China, it was great. Highly recommend it for any startups in the room. I think it was touched upon by Matt, but in kind of picking winners and looking at technology platforms, I'd be curious kind of to hear, John at Anzu, you mentioned sometimes you're doing sourcing from within, maybe spinning out of an existing company. What happens when that conflicts with, say, an outside company coming at you that maybe is addressing the same market but coming from a different technology space?
Because you have kind of a platform technology, right? Like using a MRI type of tech.
Correct, yeah.
Right. Okay.
So, sorry, is the question that, like, how do you deal with spinning out a company when you have competitors out there that are in that space?
Yeah, I think it was kind of touched upon, but yeah, what happens when you pick winners and kind of addressing the same market, but maybe starting off different technology ecosystems?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to figure out the product market fit. I mean, that's always sort of fundamental, right? And what gives this particular idea or the technology or the team the right to win in that space. I mean, competitive dynamics that exist in any market you're going to go into, but you have to have a real vision as to how this company with this business model and this team is going to make it, and then you provide enough funding to make it happen, right? So our view is, we're happy to fund things at the early stages and try experiments, right? So we will deploy our own resources to do feasibility experiments, actually just show that it works first. Once you show that it works, then we'll do a deeper dive into the market and understand whether there's really a there. If there's a customer that's really pulling for this technology, and then whether that's scalable or not, right? But I think we do it through a series of sort of staged, not only investment but sort of a technical and market sort of discovery, if you will. Yeah.
I guess part of your question is kind of linked to your own journey, like when you started, the market you were targeting when you started and the market you're targeting now has evolved significantly, right? So.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, we started off med device and now focus more on a process analytical technology.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So it's like applied to like synthetic biology, the analysis of output. Okay.
Interesting. Love to talk to you after.
Any maybe final question? Otherwise, I'll see if our panelists have some like piece of wisdom to share to wrap up. Yes, over here.
Hi, my name is Olu. So my question is a little bit related to what he was saying, but I was kind of hoping he would tangent a little bit, but he didn't, so I'm going to ask it. And it's really for the people who invest early mid-stage, and it's really about how you think about competition from the starting point, right? At my fund, sometimes we have this conflicts of interest. We see two very interesting companies.
Mm-hmm.
Some are at like different geographies. We can see the roadmap. In 2-3 years, these guys might be competitors, but they're pretty interesting, right? And so just to get a sense of how do you think about it, and how do you approach making those decisions?
Conflicts within the portfolio.
Exactly.
Okay.
We ask all our current portfolio companies if we think that there's a potential for conflict. Would you be upset if we invested in that company? If they say yes, we're out. Because the reputation over the long run is too important that we haven't gone and screwed one of our own portfolio companies, accidentally transferring knowledge from one to the other. You don't have to have done it on purpose. All somebody has to have done is said something in this boardroom, it percolates in your brain, suddenly you're coming up with that as your own idea without meaning to. In another boardroom, it would be a disaster. So we just ask, do you think that's a competitor of yours? Is that too close for us to be invested? They say yes.
Actually, I have some comments on that too, because we invested in like hundreds of companies, and what we found is that we also check for conflicts, but what we found is that in many cases founders overestimate the potential for conflict because they feel that they're going to be doing so many things in so many sectors at some point, not realizing that probably the first time they're going to hit market fit in one particular category, they're just going to do that all the way for quite a while. And also that we found that when some sector is actually quite attractive, they tend to segment quite a lot. So for example, we have probably 4 or 5 deals in sleep tech. And I mentioned one of them that evolved into actually pain management. Then we have probably 4 or 5 deals, let me think, 4 deals in blood diagnostic. It'd be like, why do you need 4 companies in blood diagnostic? Well, one is doing blood types. The other one is doing infectious diseases. Another one actually started by saying, oh, we can do any type of body fluid. And they initially thought about blood, but then there was right in the middle of the Theranos thing, and nobody wanted to touch blood. So then, and they identified a new market by being in China. They were like, oh, it looks like a lot of people are concerned about the quality of milk. For babies, they buy milk from Hong Kong, they import it. Nobody can trust the milk that's sold on the market. And also because of pollution, a lot of mothers are concerned about the quality of their own breast milk. So they decided to create a device that can actually test breast milk and baby formula. So it started as a blood testing, a kind of body, all sorts of fluid company, and now it's doing breast milk, and with very different type of technologies. And we found that if we're careful enough, there doesn't seem to be too many problems within companies, because the sectors are not the same exactly, even if they tend to look at the same thing. Also based on the geography they start with. If you start in China versus start in US, you're like in totally different worlds, literally. We haven't really had a lot of conflicts. Like even, I mentioned earlier the modular robot company. That company is actually from China. And there was another company from Austria that was also doing education robot, also kind of modular, but one was doing for kids between like 5 to 10, and the modular robotics is more like 12 to on above, and just that is a very, very different sector. So and also the geography is totally different. One was China, the other was Europe. So that's kind of how things worked out. But we try to be careful for the same reputation reason, not to create bad blood with any founders who feel that. Like I have one more example. It's a bit long, but one was doing smart insoles with new like innovative sensors to be able to measure precise pressure and help people who are diabetics avoid foot ulcers. It's a big problem because that can lead to amputations and all sorts of other even worse situations. And another company in the same cohort was doing a ski sensor, and initially they were using some kind of accelerometer type of thing, and then they realized actually if we really want to have better data, we also need probably a pressure sensor. And that really upset the diabetics sensor guys. They're like, oh, they're doing very similar tech now, except like one's doing ski, the other's doing medical device. So it's even now they haven't collided a little bit, but it created tension definitely within the cohort, and that was probably unwelcome.
Yeah, I'd say at the early stages, if there's two startups that look like they're competing, I mean, one playbook is just to buy that other company and acquire it and sort of fold it in, roll it up. That dynamic doesn't always work, but if you can turn your competitor into your friend, that's great. Mm-hmm. I think a more challenging and troubling one is if in your portfolio you have technologies that again are a platform, and then all of a sudden they start to become competitive because they're serving the same application, right? But with different technologies. That's a hard one to solve. Thank God we haven't had one yet, but I think
just put different partners in charge of those, and don't talk about those deals. Chinese wall. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you can't really anticipate in which direction companies are going to develop. Sometimes it's a bit of a surprise. Okay, maybe we'll see if you have any wrap-up comments about deep tech in general.
Let's start on that.
I'll start on that.
if you want to see some cool deep tech, give me your card and we'll invite you to our next demo day.
Very good. MassRobotics.
I think I'm actually out of wisdom for the day, so I'm gonna pass.
Thanks for that. It means that you gave everything you had.
I left it on the field. Isn't that what they call it?
I'd say, you know, while we're up here, I mean, I feel like we're still always learning, though, right? I mean, if we look at how we underwrite our deals and how they end up, it's usually never correlated. So as smart as we might think we are, you know, you can't really control everything. So I think you just have to give yourself optionality, especially at these deep tech companies, and make sure that they're capital efficient.
Make sure you're still having fun. We're all gonna be dead soon.
Jeez.
That's a heavy note. Yeah, with big tech, we may just last a little bit longer. All right, thank you very much.
15 minutes. But,